G'day everyone, and welcome to our Inclusive Classroom Part 1, an introduction to Immersive Reader. This is a series of webinars that I'm actually going to deliver for you guys. Very, very close to my heart, something that I really enjoy doing. I heard a friend of mine talk about, the thing that gets you up in the morning, and I think this is one of the things that gets me up in the morning, being able to talk to teachers about all the amazing things that we can do with Microsoft tools in what we call the inclusive classroom. If you've never seen Immersive Reader before, well, you are in for a real treat today because it is an amazing tool. It is really simple and easy to use, and it's present in so many different places across the Microsoft stack. My name is Troy Waller. I'm a learning delivery specialist, and I'm also the accessibility lead for Microsoft Education here in Australia. I'm going to ask Cindy and Trudy to come off mute and say hi. They're going to be our Q&A facilitators today, and they work with you guys in Adelaide. So why don't you guys come off and say hello and introduce yourselves.
Hi everyone, I'm Cindy. I'm a technology adoption specialist. Please feel free to send through some questions. We're already seeing some coming through. We'll try and answer all that we can towards the end. Thanks.
Excellent.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us.
Yep, okay, cool. All right, excellent. So I'm going to come over to the next slide here. So there's two ways for you to get the recording today. At the end, there's definitely going to be a link available to you. And you can also visit my YouTube site a little bit later. It's not going to be there right away. And Cindy, do you want to tell the folks how to access this through the department portals?
Yes, absolutely. When you're done, go to edit and just search for remote learning webinar. It'll be the first thing that comes up. It should say Microsoft remote learning webinars. Great,
cool. And yeah, and as I said, if you want to access it, probably an hour or so afterwards, it'll be on my YouTube channel, which is there, aka.ms/TroyYT. All right, so let's get moving. Now, remembering those questions that you're able to ask questions, I should say, using the Q&A button. So you'll see that little Q&A button, just hover over that, click on that, and then punch your questions in. And the ladies behind the scenes will certainly do their best to answer those for you. At the very end of the webinar, we're going to, open up and they're going to feed me some of these questions, and I'll try and answer them best I can. But I know they're also going to do the best they can to answer your questions as we go. Okay, so here's our agenda. First thing we're going to look at is the Microsoft Educator community. Then we're going to talk about the inclusive classroom and how we define that at Microsoft. Then I'm going to talk about reading support. So that's what all this is, okay? Today is very much about reading support with Immersive Reader. As a matter of fact, that's what I should have called the webinar. Immersive Reader across Microsoft 365, okay? So right across everything that we have, you're going to see that there's amazing applications of Immersive Reader when we start to build it into things like, PowerPoint or Outlook, etc. We'll have a little bit of a look at Immersive Reader in Minecraft, then we'll look at Teams, then I'll take you through my next steps, and then we'll do the Q&A. I said to you before, I'm very passionate about this topic, so here we go. So this is our mission statement for Microsoft. Our mission is to empower every person and every organisation on the planet to achieve more. That's our genuine mission statement. I've underlined there every person, because what's great about these tools is that we can actually help individuals, right, and students and kids. There's a real culture of responsibility at Microsoft, and I really enjoy it, that we feel that, yes, we are, arguably the most powerful software company on the planet, and we have so much reach and so much we could do. Imagine if we started to build accessibility features into our tools, which is what we've done, and we can really make a difference to kids' lives. So this is our starting point. It's education.microsoft.com. All right, so that's our Microsoft Educator Center. So again, that web address is education.microsoft.com. What I'm going to do is I'm going to jump out into my browser now, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. So I'm going to click up here, look at the size of that pointer for you. Made it very clear. All right, so this is our Educator Center. Now, the Educator Center is our online portal for professional development. Okay, so we have individual courses, we have groups of courses called learning paths. You can have your resources and lesson plans in there. And then you've also got, and this is what's really important for you, is we've also got your achievements there, which means that when you come into the portal, you need to make sure that you create an account. Okay, so sign in, just use your LearnLink email address and password, you'll be fine. Okay, so your school email address, your password, sign up for that, and then it will keep a record of everything you do. Now, the cool thing about this is because we meet the AITSL standards, this will actually count as professional development with the South Australian TRB, all right? So that means that when you do one of our courses, it'll keep a record, and then if you get audited, you can print off an audit sheet, and you can demonstrate this is all the professional learning that I've done through the Microsoft portal. And again, it counts, okay? So I want to show you one of the courses first. I just want to do this quickly because we have done this in our previous webinars, but I just want to show you that if I was to look for something like inclusivity, okay, you can see here all the courses that are related to inclusivity pop up. One in particular I want to share with you is this one, Empower Every Student with an Inclusive Classroom. I can't stress how great this course is enough. It is such a good course. It's full of not just Immersive Reader, but you know how to use Dictate and all these other tools as well. It'll take you an hour to complete, but if you get right into it, you'll keep it as a reference and a resource and come back to it again and again. All right, so you can go in there, you start that course, and you can see you'll get an hour's worth of PD out of that. Now, the other thing that we've got really quickly is we've got learning paths. So learning paths are groups of courses, right? So for example, again, if I start to type in inclusivity and then I click on inclusive classroom specialization, you can see there's 9 hours worth of PD all about inclusivity from a technology perspective. And so there's a group of courses there. They go in sort of a linear fashion. They sort of build on each other. You can go backwards and forwards and jump around if you want. That's not a problem. As long as you complete them all, then you'll get that full 9 hours worth of PD. Okay, so again, this inclusive classroom specialization, excellent, right? I can't stress how good a course this is, or a learning path group of courses this is. It's really, really good. All right, so that's our Educator Center. Let's keep moving. So remembering that we can log into Office from any device, from any browser, just going to www.office.com, and then we can just use our school email address and password, and that'll take us in to the department's tenant. All right, now again, really, really easy to access. School email address, password, and Bob's your uncle. All right, let's get into why you're here today. We want to see you engaging every learner in a diverse K-12 classroom. Let's have a look at some of these stats. Up to 50% of instructional time can be lost managing students' needs, including assistive technology. These are Australian stats, by the way. Virtually 100% of schools in Australia have students with identified learning difficulties enrolled. You know this, you're teachers, right? About 20% of students in Australian schools require inclusive education support, all right? So that's 1 in 5. And then approximately 25% of Australian students are from a language background other than English. Now, that might not be true of your school. Your school may have more, your school may have less, depending on where you're actually teaching. But that's the stat for the entire country. It's about 1 in 4. So if we look at that, 1 in 5 require inclusive education support. 1 in 4 are coming from a background other than English. We see that we've really got our work cut out for us as teachers. This is the mainstream classroom. Okay. Now, remembering too that we start to think about remote access, and you guys in South Australia now are in a place where you're starting to deliver, I guess, what you call it a blended learning model, where you've got some kids that are coming, most of the kids are coming, I should say, and some kids still aren't coming, and still trying to deliver that learning, right? So it's a really good time to actually use a combination of, face-to-face, explicit instruction, inquiry, all that kind of thing, but also be using technology at the same time. Whether they're in the classroom or not in the classroom, we can still be using this technology and these tools. Okay, so building a foundation for success. Inclusive education tools give more students personalised access to their curriculum, optimise educator time, and improve learning outcomes. Now, what's really key there for you as teachers is optimising the educator time. We want to make sure that these tools make your life easier. Yes, you're going to spend a little bit of time getting your head around it, coming to webinars, these kinds of things. But once you get your head around it, this is going to make your life easier. I promise you. All right. Definitely, we want to improve those learning outcomes. We want to make sure that those kids are engaged. OK, but I can't stress to you how much I understand as teachers. And, I was one for a very long time. Time is everything, right? Time and effort. OK, so we want to help students increase their independence and also experience a reduction of stigma. So we're using laptops, iPads, these kinds of things. It's not specialist technology or specialist software, right? It's just Office. So as the students are using this, they're using the same software as everybody else in the class, the same devices as everybody else in the class. It's going to reduce that stigma. Again, I talked about before, you become more empowered to engage every learner. Using this technology is going to assist you in your job. And then lastly, the institutions, the schools that we work at become build a reputation, I should say, as positive places that promote equity and inclusion. When we switch this stuff on at our schools, then the community sees, hey, this school actually genuinely cares about our kids and is doing the best to help them with learning, etc. There's nothing more disappointing than knowing that this is all available and schools don't turn it on. And from a parent's perspective, that just kills them. Trust me. All right, so the inclusive classroom. So Microsoft's inclusive classroom spans these 4 areas: reading support, writing support, math support, and speaking and listening. Okay, so there it is. It's really core curriculum that we're talking about. Now, today we're going to look at reading support. Okay, we're not going to have time for writing and maths and speaking and listening. We'll definitely do those in our upcoming webinars. Okay, the inclusive classroom part 2 is going to be all about writing, and then part 3 we'll look at maths and speaking and listening. But today it's all about reading support. So in 2015, a group of Microsoft staff, a group of marketing people, developers, etc., they all stepped away from their normal job for a period of time to engage in what's called hackathon. And hackathon is exactly that. Staff get to move away from their normal jobs and get involved in a passion project. Let's make the world a better place, right? Whether that goes for 1 or 2 weeks. And a group of people got together and they decided they were going to try and tackle dyslexia in children. Their tool was so popular, okay, it won the hackathon that year, but it also grew massively. They originally called it learning tools, but what happened was we started to see that people outside of education were using this, right? Not just people with dyslexia, but people with other challenges as well. And they were able to use this, as adults. And so we rebranded it, right? So it's no longer called learning tools. You may have heard it called learning tools before. It's now called Immersive Reader. All right, so let's have a look at reading support using Immersive Reader. So Immersive Reader first, I'm going to show it to you in Word. There's a version of it in Word in the browser, Word online, and there's also a version of it in the Windows 10 app. Okay, that is the fully installed version down on your machine. But these don't have the same features. Okay, so the online version is really good for reading. And the installed version, the app version in your Windows 10 machine, that's really good for writing. Look, they're both good for reading and writing, but let me just say that the browser version is better for reading. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you into a document now. All right, a Word document that I've actually got here. Now, for you right now coming in through a computer, and there's probably a little bit of a lag and all that kind of stuff in the way that we're using it right now. So you may have trouble seeing that the text on that document right now. And actually, I'm glad, right? Because that means you're going to see all the cool stuff that a student can do if they were somehow challenged by this text. So the scenario I want you to imagine is we've got a little grade 3 girl, okay? And our grade 3 girl struggles with text. Okay, let's say she's dyslexic, but please don't just see this as a dyslexia tool. There's certainly much more to this tool than dyslexia, all right? But in this scenario, she's dyslexic. So what happens is she may be at home. She may be trying to access the text remotely, or the scenario is she could be inside her classroom, all right? Either way, she can't do it by herself. So what happens at school is the aide might come and sit with her, or the teacher might get everybody working and then come and sit with her, or the teacher might even get other students to support this little girl. In a remote environment, she might go to her parents, but her parents, are busy working, or they may not be home, so she's stuck. Okay, now at school though, what makes it hard for her is that she actually gets seen by all her peers to be getting this level of support, right? So that's that stigma we talked about before. So what we've done is we built this immersive reader tool so that she can do this all by herself. There may be 1 or 2 times where the aide or the teacher will teach her how to use it, but beyond that, she'll actually be doing this by herself. Okay, so she comes to this piece of text and she's locked out, right? She can't decode fast enough. So what she can do is she can turn on Immersive Reader. Now, Immersive Reader lives here under the View tab, all right? So I'm in Word Online, okay? So I just went to office.com, I clicked on Word, all right? So I'll just make sure I explain that to you. So I'm in office.com and I clicked on Word Online, all right? And then I've opened up my document. Now, again, she clicks on View and here's Immersive Reader. But if we forget where things are, because you think about it, it's hard for us to remember where everything is in all these tabs, we can come into what's called Tell Me. And Tell Me, as we start to type what we're looking for, in this case, it's Immersive Reader, it actually brings the button up for us, okay? So it's the same as if we were in here, clicking on Immersive Reader, we can find it in here. All right, so I find Immersive Reader. So our little girl clicks on Immersive Reader, and the first thing that we notice is it stripped away all of the app, okay? So the app is completely gone. Now, you can see over here, I can maximize further, and I can get rid of my browser as well. All right, so now I've got the document sitting here, black text on white page. There's no bells and whistles. There's no blue and white and buttons and all those other distractions for some of our students when they get, easily distracted by the buttons, etc. But what's cool about this is that all the ability to change the text to make it easier for her all lives inside Immersive Reader. And what I mean by that is she doesn't need to go out to the settings in Word or the settings in the browser or the settings in her PC or a Mac or an iPad. It's all happening inside the actual app. Now, the first thing we notice is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little icons and a back arrow. Okay, now hovering over the first one, you can see it says that's text preferences. Okay, so when she clicks on that, she's able to change the text. So what she can do is she can increase or decrease the size of the text from inside the document. Okay, so she can do this all herself. Now, once she sets this, it will remember. Okay, I've dialed it all back and I'm going to show you, how we can build it out. But once she sets this, it will remember when she goes out of the document and comes back in, or turns her machine off and comes back in tomorrow, it will remember her settings. So regardless of what the original document looked like, when she comes into Immersive Reader, it will be exactly as she likes it and exactly as she knows it. So, okay, first thing is increasing and decreasing the text size. So I'm going to make that nice and big. Hopefully you can see that now. The other thing we've got is the ability to increase spacing. All right, so spaces between the letters, spaces between the words, and spaces between the lines. So remember, she's dyslexic, right? So if she's challenged by something like visual crowding, where all the words and lines appear to run into each other, and that's what dyslexics report actually happens for them, she can increase the spacing, and that's key. And she can also make that even bigger, those spaces even bigger, by increasing the text size. We've got 3 basic fonts, okay? We've got Calibri, Sitka, and every primary teacher's favorite, Comic Sans, okay? These are all very simple, clear fonts. Now, you may have heard talk of a dyslexia font. Nothing wrong with the dyslexia font. It works, it's great. But the thing is, its strength is based on the fact that it is very clear and very simple, and these fonts are similar as well. All right, so you don't need to have a special font, you just need to have a clear, simple font, and that's what we've got, 3 of those there. You've got the ability to change the theme. Okay, so you can go into dark mode, you can go into black on blue, black on green, any theme that you want. I'm going to bring it back to this one here, and then what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to hit this play button down here.
Last Christmas holidays I played with my puppy Brandy. I sprayed water at her. I wrestled her and I played soccer with her. We sat down together, we said jokes to each other, we played and played until I had to go into the house and eat lunch.
Now the cool thing about that, did you notice it was a nice, natural sounding Australian accent? You can change the accents. There's ways to do that, but I just want to stress there's no Stephen Hawking, there's no robots reading here. It's a nice sounding Aussie accent. Can you speed it up? Of course you can. All right. So you're going to have kids that aren't dealing with cognitive processing issues. They're just having trouble decoding, and they want to take that in as fast as you and I would if we were reading it. So it can be fast.
Lunch. When I was done eating, I went back outside and I read her book called Subtle. I played tag with her and I tagged her 10 times and she tagged me with her tail 11 times, so she beat me. Then we said all of it 12 months, 5 times.
Now, you may be thinking, oh, that's too fast, but actually kids tune into that and they're able to actually decode orally rather than visually. Now, the other thing that we've got there is the ability to slow it down, of course. All right, so we can slow it right down.
Then we sang a song, then we said the 7 consonants.
Okay, so we can slow it down or we can speed it up. All right, let me take us back to the normal speed. Okay, so again, what happened a moment ago was that student was unable to access that text and now she's able to have it read to her. But what if she doesn't need the whole text? What if she's only struggling with one word? So she might come to a word here, which is a bit difficult for her to sound out. So when she clicks on that word, she can see it and hear it. Have a look.
Sprayed. Sprayed.
All right. So she can have the whole document read to her or she can have just one word at a time, because we don't want to give her too much support or she won't grow, but we don't want to give her too much challenge or she won't grow either. So it's about teaching our little girl what tools she needs and making sure she doesn't take on all the other tools that she doesn't need, right? So not every student's going to turn everything on, of course. Okay, so this is a piece of text that I built, all right? Now, I want to show you we can syllabify. So we are connected to the internet here. It's really important that we be connected to the internet, because what happens there is the artificial intelligence is actually reading those words and chunking it exactly like we would if we were working with a little girl. Christmas, holidays, together. All right. Now, the other thing that it does is it finds our parts of speech. So it finds our nouns, it finds our verbs, our adjectives, and our adverbs. Now, what's great is you can actually change the colors. All right. So if a student has trouble differentiating colors, then it might be good for them to actually use colors that are as different from each other as possible. Excuse me. The other thing is, if their child has does not have the ability to differentiate those colors at all, we can show labels. Okay. So we can put the parts of speech on there like that. Now, I want to show you something. The thing about this is we are using this AI, okay, who is reading the text and is actually determining whether contextually it's a noun or a verb or an adjective, etc. In other words, it's not going to say a word like tag is going to be a verb all the time. No. All right. So if I was to write, I tried to tag you, it'll find it as a verb, right? And I tagged her, there it is there. But when I played tag, which is the name of a game, well, then it's bringing it in as a noun. All right, so it's actually really quite powerful. It will contextualize your parts of speech. All right, so that's that. Now, the next thing that we've got is what's called line focus. All right, now you can see here, I've made this a little bit big, so I'm just going to come back and make this a little bit smaller so you can see. You can see here I've got the ability to have 5 lines, 3 lines, or even down to 1 line focus. Okay, so what that's doing now,
sprayed water at her. I wrestled her and I played soccer with her. We sat down together. We said jokes to each other. So what that's doing now is that's actually reducing the distractions even further, and it's imitating what we would have done as teachers. We might have covered parts of the text or you know, just shown her a portion of the text at one time. So it's doing exactly what we would do as teachers. Now, the other thing, this is what's called Picture Dictionary. It's powered by Boardmaker. Anyone who works in the remedial space is going to know Boardmaker quite well. When I turn on the Picture Dictionary, now when I click on one of my words, I'm not just going to see it and hear it, I'm also going to get picture prompts. Look at this, all right? So I can see it and hear it. Holidays. But
I can also get these picture prompts. Now, they're not contextualized. It's just going to bring up a number of possible definitions for you, because have a look at something like played. You think about all the different things that played could mean. Look at this. Okay, so that's Picture Dictionary. Now, it really depends on which word we click. All right, people oftentimes want to see what happens when they click on Brandy. Not every word is going to have a Picture Dictionary. All right, but there it is. So a moment ago, our little girl was here and was locked out, okay? But now, when she comes into a Microsoft app that's got Immersive Reader, she knows that she's going to see her document exactly as she is used to seeing it, right? Regardless of the text type, regardless of the font size, she can see it all herself. All right, so there you go. Isn't that cool? And I'm just going to let you hear that voice one more time.
Last Christmas holidays I played with my puppy Brandy. I sprayed water at her. I wrestled her and I played soccer with her.
Great. Now, I've got a second scenario for you. Okay, so we talked about those one in four EAL kids that we've got in our schools. Okay, so I want you to imagine this little boy has come from Korea. Okay, he's been in Australia for quite a long time. His English is really quite good, but occasionally he gets stuck on certain words. All right, so what happens for him is up here in the reading preferences, he can click on this button and he can translate his document, right, into all these different languages. All right, so all these languages will actually translate the text, but our little boy is looking specifically for Korean. Okay, so what he can do is he can click here by word. All right, and now when he clicks on a word that he's struggling with, so let's say he's struggling with the word together. All right, he clicks on that. He can see it and hear it in English.
Together.
He's still got the picture dictionary, but he can now also see it and hear it in Korean.
함께. 함께.
All right, so depending on the word that he's struggling with, let's go with eating.
먹는. 먹는.
All right, so he can get that word by word translation help. Now, what if his English was even worse, right? So what he can do is he can actually translate the entire document. Now, look at what happens when it comes into Korean. It's actually taken that text, it's translated it into Korean, and it's even found the parts of speech for him. All right, so he can look at that and he can read that. But look what I'm going to show you down here. Click on the play. Look what happens.
지난 크리스마스 휴일 나는 내 강아지 브랜디와 함께 연주. 나는 그녀에게 물을 부었다. 나는 그녀를 씨름하고 나는 그녀와 함께 축구를 했다.
So depending on the language, some of them aren't going to speak, but most of them do. A lot of the languages are going to find parts of speech and even give us the picture dictionary, right? So if I look for, there we go. So you can see that he's still got it in Korean and English and the picture dictionary. That's not going to happen with every language that we jump into, but he can go backwards and forwards between the original and the Korean. So I want to show you, for example, if we come into something like Chinese, okay, let's go into simplified Chinese. I'm sure you've got a lot of, or at least a number of Chinese kids in your school. Now when we translate into simplified Chinese, we can see we haven't got the parts of speech, we haven't got the picture dictionary, but we still have the ability to hear the Chinese and the English together. The cool thing about the Chinese translation here is the language the spoken voice is actually really, really natural sounding. Have a listen.
我向他喷水，我和他搏斗，我和他踢足球，我们坐在一起，互相开玩笑，我们玩。直到我不得不进屋吃午饭。
So you could imagine this could also be used in a LOTE class, language other than English. You could be using this in ways as a language teacher to teach the kids as well. But those are those two scenarios that I've shown you today. That a moment ago we had our student completely locked out of this text, or we had a student that was partially locked out. By clicking on Immersive Reader, they're able to get much more support. All right. So again, where does it live? I'm in Word Online. I click on the View tab. And Immersive Reader's here, or I can look for it up here in Tell Me. All right, so that's pretty cool. Now, some of the mainstream application we've seen with this, now remembering too, you're back at school now, we can be using this in a remote scenario, but we can also be using it back at school. So you can see here we've got these emerging readers using Immersive Reader for sight word recognition. And then we've also got the ability to have listening posts and independent reading stations. Okay, a student can put on the headphones and have the text read to him or her. Its ability to translate, we've seen, is quite powerful, but it's also really amazing in its ability to identify multiple languages on the page. So for example, and I'm just going to take you in and show you an example here. So I'm going to take you in here. So I'm using it in OneNote here, but you can see here that if I turn on Immersive Reader, it's here, View and Immersive Reader. There we go. You can see here I've got English, I've got French, I've got Japanese, etc. And look what happens. It'll just basically pick up all these different languages itself.
Here is an example of English being spoken. À vaincre sans péril, on triomphe sans gloire.
No dejes para mañana lo que puedas hacer hoy. 안으로 요리 의무가야스시. أحضر الناس جوابا من لم يغضب.
Now you think about how many people you would need in a room to be able to read all that. But even more than that, let's translate that back into our, I'm going to go into English, excuse me. English Australia, there we go. All right, let's translate that entire document with all these different languages. Let's translate it back into the one English that we can all listen to and understand.
Here is an example of English being spoken. To be conquered without peril, one triumphs without glory. Don't leave for tomorrow what you can do today. It is easier to give birth than to think. People get an answer. The silver fox loves OneNote Amazing Life.
Okay, there we go. So that's Immersive Reader. Oh, I'm going to have to jump in here so you guys can see the slides again. So that's Immersive Reader. I'm going to take you through some of the other places that it lives in a moment. So it's an empowering tool. It evens the playing field for kids who are struggling readers. It allows them to feel more like independent learners, not depending on the teacher, not depending on peers. All right. So the whole point of this is we're reducing that stigma, but we're also growing that independence. So the student doesn't need to rely on others. They can actually be using this tool. Now, the thing about this tool is it is embedded into Office, which means they don't check it at the door when they graduate primary school. Neither do they check it at the door when they graduate high school. They can take it with them because it's Microsoft Office and everybody uses Office. Nearly all of the study teachers mentioned how it enabled their readers, regardless of skill level, to access content aimed at a higher reading level. In this case, access means comprehension of content that had previously been unavailable. In other words, if we have texts that we're trying to aim that are high level, that we're trying to aim at kids with low ability, then this will actually support them, whether they are diagnosed with something or not. One of the studies that was carried out by the British Dyslexia Association and Noel Hill found that 16 out of 18 children showed improved behaviour when they used this tool. Remember, they were dyslexic students, and 11 out of 16 saw their reading comprehensions get better. I've also got this study for you as well, which showed that 4th to 12th graders showed reading comprehension scores improved, writing improved, non-cognitive processes improved, etc. And I'm going to make these links available to you, and you'll be able to go in and have a look at these studies yourself. So these weren't carried out by Microsoft, these were third-party studies. So where do we find Immersive Reader? Well, we find it in Office 365, which is purchased for us by our school, by our education department, so we can access that. All right, so we just use our Learn link, we sign in, we can access it in Office 365. But there is a free version available to everybody. All right, so as long as you've got the internet, you can sign into Office Online. Just go to live.com, sign in, create a free account, and then you can use Word Online, etc. Now, remembering it's not going to be as feature rich as the full Office 365, but you'll still be able to do what we've looked at today. And then it's also in Teams, which we're going to explore in a moment. Okay, so I showed it to you a moment ago in OneNote, but I'm just going to show you quickly again. I'm going to jump out of here. So this is OneNote, the Windows 10 app, and you can see here, again, I clicked on View and there was Immersive Reader, or I could use Tell Me over here to find it. So if you know OneNote, then you'll know how to access that. It's really easy to find. Now, the other one I want to show you, though, is coming over here to OneNote Online. Okay, so students, as long as they've got a browser, they don't need to have the OneNote installed on their machine. And again, clicking on View, and here's Immersive Reader. So here we have a Year 12 psychology essay that's been written. Student may have trouble accessing that. They can click on Immersive Reader, and you can see it's remembered our settings again.
A change that has occurred in the Western is an increased incidence in divorce when people no longer want to be married, so they want to make their marriage null and void. Whereas in the past, Divorce was a relatively rare occurrence.
Right, well, that was a bit depressing, but anyway, that's that that article, and you can see it's going to work not just in a primary context. It's going to work in university. It's going to work in secondary. It's going to work in the workforce as well. All right, so I don't want you to see this as just a kids tool, which is why we don't call it learning tools. We call it Immersive Reader. Now, is it available on other tools? Yes, it is available in OneNote for iPad and OneNote for Mac. All right, I want to stress it is not available in the Word app on either of those tools, but it is available in OneNote for iPad and OneNote for Mac, but you can still access it through the online tools. You can still access it through the browser on both those devices in Word. All right, this is what we just looked at then. All right. Now I want to tell you something, I'll tell you another story about this really cool tool called Office Lens, because you may be saying to me, hey, Troy, that's all well and good when we've got documents inside a computer, but what do we do when our documents are outside the computer? Well, let me show you Office Lens. I'm going to show you a bit of a video here now.
Turn your iPhone into a scanner. Office Lens crops, straightens, enhances, and makes pictures of whiteboards and documents readable. How do you save and share your meeting notes on the whiteboard after meetings? Use Office Lens. Just frame your shot from any angle and snap a picture. Office Lens automatically crops, straightens, sharpens, and cleans up whiteboard images. Save the image to OneNote or OneDrive and get it from any of your devices. Or share the image in an email. Do you ever worry about misplacing important documents? Switch to document mode and Office Lens will trim and color the image perfectly. Save time and convert the image to a Word document that you can edit.
Okay, so we saw two things there. We saw the whiteboard mode, which is going to help us grab images of whiteboards and it'll straighten them up and sharpen the colors, especially when you know that green pen that you use that never shows up properly. It'll actually grab that and enhance it for you. But the second thing we saw was document mode, which is the ability to take a photograph of a document external to the device, and then by grabbing that image, it'll actually drop it into Microsoft Word and then you can start to type. It uses what's called optical character recognition, meaning that it sees the words or sees the letters on the page and it brings that into the file. Now this is an iPhone app, an iPad app, an Android app, and a Windows 10 app. Okay, there is no Mac version for this, but you can use this device to grab a picture, right, of a piece of text, and let me take you in and show you what I mean. So if I come into OneNote with a page that I've dropped in here, and I've called it Office Lens, but you can see here the students struggling with this textbook page. They can use Office Lens, take a photograph of that, then Office Lens on their phone or on their iPad or on their PC will then drop it into OneNote. When you click on Immersive Reader, look at this. So our full Immersive Reader experience, let me turn those parts of speech back on so you can see that they do work. But that full Immersive Reader experience is now happening from that photograph of text.
After a while, I asked the students if they would design a search that would only yield results from Iceland about the impact of climate change on the melting seas. None of them could do it, but they all thought they could.
All right, so a moment ago our student was locked out. They used the Immersive Reader app and it dropped it into OneNote and they were able to access. But it has matured even further since then. So what's happened now is now this isn't true of Android devices, but it's true of your iPad and it's true of your iPhone, right? So this is the iOS devices. I'm going to show you this little video here. So from inside the app.
Hi, I'm Mike. Today I'm going to
So from inside the app, let me jump back to here. Oh, goodness me. All right, I'm sorry, but it's not going to show us. But basically what it does.
Hi, I'm Mike. Today I'm going to demonstrate.
basically what it does is it has that full immersive reader experience from inside the iPhone. Okay, so apologies. You can see there it's wanting to load and then it doesn't load for me, but it will actually demonstrate that immersive reader experience, okay, inside the phone or inside the iPad. All right, the next thing I want to talk to you about is Immersive Reader in Microsoft Edge browser. So this is the new browser from Microsoft. So we're not talking about Internet Explorer, we're not talking about Chrome, we're not talking about Firefox, we're not talking about Safari, we're talking about the Edge browser for Windows 10. So if you've not seen it before, I'm going to show you what that looks like. Let me just jump into my page here. All right, so this is the Edge browser here. If I pull my mouse down, you're going to see it pop up along the bottom there, I hope. There it is. So it's a little Edge browser there. It's got that funny sort of like E-looking shape, okay? And this is, I'm going to turn Immersive Reader off. So this is the original page that I came to, okay? Now you can see here, I've got my text, I've got graphics everywhere, there's ads, there's, you know, all kinds of stuff, there's links, the text is broken up by all these graphics, etc. Now the thing about a website like this is for some of our students, it's really going to do their head in, right? They're really going to have a lot of struggle accessing the text. So what we did was we built Immersive Reader into the Edge browser. Again, it's free. You don't have to pay for extensions or anything like that. So if we click on Immersive Reader, look what happens, okay? First of all, I've got the ability to do my read aloud.
The phases of the moon. Why does the moon change shape each night? Have you ever looked up at the sky and noticed how the moon changes shape each night? Okay, so it's going to read to me. A web page just wouldn't be so cool if it stripped the images away. Now, the original Immersive Reader that we looked at a moment ago does strip the images away from the document, but Immersive Reader in the Edge browser does not strip the images, okay? So the student can still access those. The other thing we can do, if we turn the voice off, we can increase and decrease our text size again. We can increase and decrease our spacing, and we've also got all those cool themes, right? Exactly like we saw in Immersive Reader. With reading preference, we've got the ability to do 1, 3, and 5 line focus again. And then in grammar tools, we've got the ability to syllabify, right? Break our words into syllables, and we can highlight our nouns, our verbs, our adjectives, no adverbs yet, but they'll come. And we can also show the labels and change the colors if that's what we need to do. All right. So a moment ago, and I'm going to turn this off. A moment ago, the phases of the moon. Wrong one. A moment ago, we saw text like this, which had locked the student out, but the student is now able to access that independently using the Edge browser. Okay. Now let's have a look at what it looks like in Forms. Okay, so Microsoft Forms. So if you remember our last webinar, I talked all about the power of forms and for assessments, whether we're remote or back in class. I'm going to take you in and show you this. It's going to make me sign in again. Excuse me. I'm going to have to do that. And here I come into Forms. Now, inside this form, we've built Immersive Reader as just a normal part of Immersive Reader. All right, so you can see here, Immersive Reader, excuse me, a normal part of Forms. So you can see up here, here's the Immersive Reader button. If I click on that, it will read the title to me. Have a look. Remembering all my settings too.
Office 365 Summative Assessment. How much do you know about Office 365 for education?
Okay, it reads that to me, I go back. Now with the question, you can see down here with question number 2, there's a question that's being asked. There is a Immersive Reader button here. It's a true and false one. Let's click on the Immersive Reader button and let's have that read to us.
Two Office 365 Pro Plus can be installed on your laptop. 1 point. True. False. End of question. Close the reader to input your answer.
Okay, so then I can go back and I can answer that question. I can listen to that as many times as I want. I can still see the graphic if the graphic's important to the question. Very, very cool. Okay, so that's what it looks like in Forms. Now let's have a look at it in Outlook. Okay, so if I'm sending an email to a student or a student is wanting to receive emails from other students, etc., and they're having trouble with the text, they're going to be locked out. So this is Outlook Online. Look what happens here. I just click on these ellipses. I come down here to show an Immersive Reader. So look at this text here, right? This may be really difficult for you to read. Clicking on Immersive Reader. Same settings, everything the way that I know and love it. And here's that email that I weirdly wrote to myself. Have a look.
Hi there, Troy. I'm just writing to you so you can show everyone how to use Immersive Reader in Outlook in the browser. See you later. Your friend, Troy.
All right, I'm friends with myself. Very good. Okay, so that's how we use it in Outlook. Let's keep moving. Now, the other thing we've done is we've built Immersive Reader into Minecraft Education Edition. So it's not in the normal version of Minecraft, it's in the Education Edition, which you all have access to as teachers in your state. Now have a look at this. We've got these slates here, okay, or we've got people that are speaking with the bubble forms, okay. Students wouldn't be able to read that because they're challenged by the text. So what they do is they click on the Immersive Reader button, it starts to load, and then they get the full Immersive Reader experience inside Minecraft. But look at this. We've also put Minecraft picture dictionary icons in there as well. So when they click on Minecraft words, it will actually show them picture dictionary prompts there as well. Okay, so that's what it looks like in Minecraft. Now let me come over here to Teams. So this is Teams, which is our first webinar. So please go back and have a look at that. But here we are inside Teams. Now, the first thing about Teams I want to point out to you is that it exists inside the Teams chat. All right. So if you're using remote learning and you start remote learning tools and you start writing to your students through the chat and they start writing back to you, some of your students are actually going to be locked out of this chat. But if they hover over, they get these little ellipses pop up, and then we can see Immersive Reader is here. Still remembers everything about me.
Troy Wallet, Monday, the 27th of April, 2020, 12:53 p.m. Hi class. I hope you're well. All
right, so they can access it through there. Now the other thing too is in the assignments features, okay, the students can actually access it. Now I'm looking at it as a teacher. I'm going to have to take you into a student view. So let me click on this, come into the student view. So look at this assignment. Right, there's a lot of text there and a lot of instructions, etc. But here's our good friend Immersive Reader, which lives in the assignment tab. And inside of Teams, we can have that assignment read to us.
Aboriginal culture, introducing Adam Goods. Category, social studies. Due the 2nd of May, 2020, 23:59. Instructions. Watch the Adam Goods video and summarize the major arguments in 150 words.
All right, and then the student can come back to that. All right, let's keep moving, because I also want to talk to you a little bit about, we've seen Immersive Reader in OneNote, we've seen Immersive Reader in Forms, we've seen Immersive Reader in Teams, we've seen Immersive Reader in Word, but remembering because Word Online, Forms, OneNote all live inside Teams, we can see Immersive Reader inside Teams. And I'll show you what I mean. So if I see a document here, okay, whether that's a Word document, whether it's a OneNote document, whether it's a Microsoft Forms, whatever, as soon as I click on that document, because it's opening in the online version, I can still be accessing Immersive Reader inside Teams for my different tools. Okay, so the cool thing about throwing your learning into Teams, even when you're back at school, is that the students that need that support can have the Immersive Reader support right across these different tools, not just in the assignments, right, but also in the Word documents, in the forms, in the OneNote pages, etc. Okay, so Immersive Reader is everywhere. Now, the other thing that we've got, and we'll share this link with you, is there's a lot of apps out there that have taken Immersive Reader and started to build it into their apps, not just the Microsoft ones. We have made it free to publishers to use this, okay? So if you have an app that you love and you think it'd be great that Immersive Reader is in there, you can actually tell the publisher that Immersive Reader is available for them, and it's available for them for free. So we built it into things like Canvas, right, which is an LMS. We've also built it into Oxford University Press eBooks, Wakelet, Pear Deck has now got it as well. Maybe some of these are tools that you're already using. Okay, and we'll make those that link available to you so you can share it with your publisher. Let's look at next steps, because we're coming to the end of our time together, and I'm sure we want to do some questions. First of all About Immersive Reader is an online course on the Educator community. The link is there. We'll be publishing that for you, but you can go in and learn all about Immersive Reader, and all the cool things that you can do with Immersive Reader will be explained to you in that course. Empower Every Student with an Inclusive Classroom. That's that course I told you about before. Again, on the Educator Centre, you do get recognition with the South Australian TRB for doing that course. Trust me, you won't regret doing this course. There's a YouTube channel, a playlist with all our special education and accessibility resources for remote learning. So you can see there's things on there about Immersive Reader, but other things as well. So go in and explore that when you get the link. Our Disability Answers Desk, I do want to take a moment to quickly share that with you, but I'll come back to it. I'll quickly run through this. We've got the Accessibility YouTube channel you can access. We've got the ability for you to give your feedback to the Microsoft developers. Microsoft Enable, which is our accessibility channel on Twitter, is there for you. I'm going to share all these links with you, but in particular, I do want to show you the Disability Answers Desk, and I just need to find where that is. I hope oh, here it is over here, Disability Answers Desk. So when you get that link, you scroll down to the bottom here and look at this. There's actually a phone number, right, a toll-free number that you can ring within Australia from 9 AM to 9 PM Monday to Friday and 10 AM to 6 PM if you have accessibility questions about Windows and Office. So if you're using, PowerPoint on your Mac, you can still ask questions, all right, because it's just, using our tools. So whether it's Windows or Office is fine, and you can get real support in real time for free. Outside of those hours, there's a 24/7 chat number there as well. Okay, we're nearly there, I promise. So I hope you've been blown away by the cool things you can do with Immersive Reader. This is one tool, right, across the Microsoft stack, but there's so much more. But I'd still love you to spread the word about Immersive Reader. Tell your students, okay, whether they're learning from home or back at school with you, show them that they can access this and the difference it can make. Tell your colleagues, other teachers, aides, and education support staff, all right? Support professionals, speech pathologists, occupational therapists, etc. They love this stuff. Tell your principal so that your principal can see this is something that you want to get moving on as an entire school, right? Change like this can be stunted if the principal's not on board. And also tell the parents and caregivers, all right? So whether that's grandma, auntie, mum and dad, share these tools with them and let them know they can use these at home. We have our MEC Newsletter. Please, you can jump in and access that, aka.ms MEC Newsletter. You can become a subscriber to our newsletter if you want. Again, the recordings are available for you at, in about an hour's time. It'll be available for you through my YouTube channel, but also you can access it through, I don't know if you can hear me, Cindy, but maybe you want to come on and tell them how they can access it through the department portal.
Yeah, sure. All they need to go is to go into Edit and search for remote learning webinars. I've also pasted the link in the publish section of the Q&A, so please scroll up above and you'll be able to find the direct link there.
Excellent, thanks for that. Okay, another few things. Special education and accessibility resources can be found at aka.ms/SPED, all right? So please jump into your browser, so much there, whether you're working remotely or back at school. Remember Microsoft Accessibility on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, MSFT Enable, you can ask questions, etc. And we've also got support documentations for our special resources at support.office.com/education. Okay, lastly, before we go into Q&A, I am available on Twitter. You can find me. I'm at Hoju Saram. Please add me. This is a professional account. I use it to tell you all about the great things in education. If you want to find me on LinkedIn, I also do a lot of publishing of the Microsoft tools, accessibility and education on LinkedIn. So just look me up, Troy Waller, or you can find me on Facebook. Just search Troy Waller Microsoft. You'll know me because you'll see this little graphic here. This is what I use for all my accounts. These are totally education technology related accounts. No pictures of cats, or at least I'll do my best. Okay, I'm going to come off. I'm going to ask these guys to come off mute, and we're going to see if they've got any questions for me.
Thanks, Troy. It's Trudy here. Got a couple of questions for you. With regard to Immersive Reader and having to type in the story. You covered scanning a document using Office Lens. Does this also apply to PDF as well?
You mean it reading the PDFs, or?
Yes. So if you scan as a PDF, will it read that, or do you need to say that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, for sure. And what's coming soon to Office Lens, sorry, it's not Office Lens, to the Edge browser, is the Edge browser will again, it used to read the PDFs and it stopped when it was relaunched. Very soon you'll be able to upload your PDFs and read them through that browser as well. But yes, it will save your documents as a PDF and it will continue to read them.
Awesome. An unrelated question, your large yellow cursor, how can teachers emulate that to use in their
good question. Okay, so and this would be another webinar that we'll do, but I'll take you through really quickly. If you bring your mouse down here, right, to the bottom of your page in Windows 10, and you can see here I've got my little search bar. So when I click on my little search icon, what I look for is I go up here into settings, okay, click on settings. I'm going to have to drag this up here. And we have what's called the Ease of Access Center, okay? So the Ease of Access Center, this is in my Windows 10 settings, okay? When I click on Ease of Access Center, Ease of Access Center, you can see here I've got everything that I need to make my device more accessible living in the one place, okay? So display, cursor and pointer, magnifier, colors, filters, setting the audio, speech, etc. all lives in there. So again, just find it in your settings and it's called the Ease of Access Center. Good question.
Thanks, Troy. We've got two more. With regards to Chinese language, is it Mandarin or Cantonese?
It's both, right? So Immersive Reader will actually read in Cantonese, so you'll see it as it's got Chinese Hong Kong, and that'll read in Cantonese. Or if you're wanting Chinese traditional, we'll read Mandarin with a Taiwanese accent, and Chinese simplified will read Mandarin with a mainland accent, right? So it's really quite granular in what it can do for you.
That's great. There was another question asking if it has grammar check. So I'm not sure if this is relating to Word or OneNote. Perhaps you can comment on both.
Sure. That's what we're going to explore in our second webinar, okay, which is we're going to look at Editor, which does all that grammar sort of stuff, and I'll unpack that. So Immersive Reader itself doesn't check your grammar, but I'm going to show you other tools that will check your spelling and grammar and things like that.
That's great. And just for myself, Immersive Reader looks different. Has it had a recent update?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that's the way it's looked for at least the last couple of months, for sure.
Perfect. Well, we'll have a look at it internally ourselves then. Thanks.
Cool. Okay, so that's it, guys. So again, if you want to look me up on social media, the reason why it matters, I think, is because what I'll do is I will push out all those updates, the latest articles and features, news and all that kind of thing. I'll push that out for you into your social media channels, right? So that's me on Twitter, find me on LinkedIn, and you can also find me on Facebook, and I promise you that I will accept your invitation. Okay, that's it for us. So our next webinar, I think we're going to be looking at Minecraft. And then the one after that, I think we're going to look at the Inclusive Classroom Part 2, which will all be about writing. So that's it from us in Melbourne and Adelaide. Thanks for being a part of this today, guys. Bye-bye.